Welcome to the F1 Debate Show, episode 31. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the SEB and Max saga.
And we're also going to be talking about the Ross Brawn and Liberty Media saga.
But first now, probably one of the most talked about topics in Formula 1 this season is the battle between Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen and the events that took place at the 2016 Mexican Grand Prix. Now, this has just been absolutely just blown out of proportion in the last week or so, because for anyone who's been living on Mars or living on wherever out of space for the past few days, just a brief update here now. At the Mexican Grand Prix, Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen had a bit of a disagreement, let's say, which also between the stewards as well. But let's throw them into it as well. So on lap 60 of the Mexican Grand Prix, Max Verstappen obviously leading Sebastian Vettel, and Sebastian Vettel got into slipstream and was going to overtake him. Now Max Verstappen ended up locking up, which meant he had to go straight on at the corner, cutting across the grass, missing the chicane, and obviously Sebastian Vettel obviously went through the chicane because he didn't lock up. And Vettel was on the team radio basically blasting Max Verstappen, saying that, he should give me that place back, he's gaining an advantage. And Max Verstappen's team radio came on to him and said, look, I think you're going to have to take the place back, give the place back to Sebastian Vettel. Max Verstappen didn't respond to that, as far as I'm aware. So it goes on again. And Vettel's just getting more and more angry as the laps go on. And then eventually, who comes along? But Daniel Ricciardo comes along about 2 laps later, and Sebastian Vettel is like, well, I still need that place back. He's getting an advantage. What's going on? He's getting more and more frustrated, and he basically ends up shoving Daniel Ricciardo off the track. Basically what Max Verstappen did to him at Japan, which Seb didn't like. So that's what Sebastian Vettel did, which I thought was a bit bizarre. So he did that, causing Vettel to go out and obviously Daniel Ricciardo to lose some time. And at the end of the Grand Prix, it's probably one of my favourite radio messages ever in Formula 1, in my opinion. The team radio come at him, his race engineer, and just says, Charlie said, and Seb just goes, well, you can tell Charlie now. Basically, yeah, I'm not going to repeat exactly what he said, but trust me, it was gold in my opinion. And now, obviously, Max Verstappen finished the race in 3rd place, then got demoted by a 5-second penalty, which then put Sebastian Vettel up into the podium place. Verstappen went in that little green room with Hamilton and Rosberg. He got told when he got up there that he wasn't going to be on the podium. Sebastian Vettel started running across past the crowd in the stadium section up to the podium, and he did his podium celebrations. But shock horror, after that, he gets told that he's also got a penalty for what he did to Daniel Ricciardo. That meant Daniel Ricciardo got 3rd place. So absolutely bizarre scenes at the Mexican Grand Prix. Honestly, it was absolutely crazy. So I think Verstappen was 5th and Vettel was 4th and Ricciardo was 3rd, I believe. I don't know or it could have been vice versa between Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel. And they had a little bit of exchange of hand gestures between the both at the end. So, and afterwards, there's been a lot of debate as to what on earth was going on. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? So Sebastian Vettel basically went up to Charlie Whiting after the Grand Prix and apologised for his comments that he said. Then about 2 days later, there was a rumour going about that Sebastian Vettel would be banned for the next Grand Prix in Brazil because of his actions and what he said to Charlie Whiting. And then he did a full letter of apology to Charlie Whiting, John Todd and the FIA. And they said, well, okay, we're not happy about this still, but fair enough. We'll wipe our hands clean. We'll start again. You're gonna be. There's no action. No, there's no further action going to be taken. Now, Red Bull are not happy about this whatsoever. They're basically saying, well, Sebastian Vettel, after all that, he should be fine. He should be fined and everything. And people have been debating and saying, he should be suspended. He should be, reprimanded. He should have everything just for swearing, really. And you're probably thinking, well, Formula 1 drivers swear all the time, out of frustration and everything. Look at this, stupid idiot. As what many drivers of F1 have said. But I don't think no one has ever actually said that about the head steward of Charlie White. I don't think anyone has ever gone against him. So that's absolutely bizarre. But luckily he got away with it. And on the Max Verstappen side, I mean, to be fair, that's just another story on its own, because at the start of the race, where everything really sort of unfolded, Lewis Hamilton ended up locking up at the start, going off at the same place where Max Verstappen locked up and went across the grass. No action was taken for Lewis Hamilton. He didn't get a penalty. He didn't get nothing. As well as And then also people were saying that Max Verstappen should have got a penalty at the start because he locked up, nearly ended up going into the side of Rosberg, which then he ended up forcing him off the track. But then you could also argue about that, well, he locked up, he couldn't go anywhere, and if Rosberg would have come back onto the track, he would end up causing a collision. So, and everything like that. So it's been absolutely mental, bit head boggling stuff this week in the F1 paddock about what the hell's going on. So it's like, well, the big question is really, has the FIA done everything correctly? You know, a lot of people will say no, and a lot of people will say yes, depending, you know, which side you believe in, what you saw, really. I mean, I'll say you saw the Grand Prix. I mean, stupid stuff. What the hell was going on? I don't know. It was towards the end. It was just like, well, he's third. But I mean, the FIA must be kind of, in a way, embarrassed to some extent, because I mean, the decisions they were making were just like, well, I'll give him penalty, then I gave him penalty. They're like, they didn't know what on earth was going on. And then jumping back to the start about with Lewis Hamilton, they didn't give him a penalty. So yeah, they did with Max Verstappen. So it's like, well, why did he get away with it and Max Verstappen didn't? So that's just caused more controversy, which we'll move on to in a little bit. So I mean, the first question I'm going to ask you in this episode, Elsie, did the FIA do everything correctly, do you think, in your opinion?
Now, with the decision that they made about the drivers, I don't think so, because, as you said, JT, obviously giving all these people third place and penalties all around, it's like really confusing, and obviously Verstappen was going to get it. He most certainly was going to get it before they gave him a penalty, but then they thought, well, we've done this wrong. Verstappen wasn't really to blame, it was just a racing incident for him. Let's give it a Sebastian Vettel, the penalty even. So then so both of those drivers weren't on the podium. Obviously he went to Ricardo, fair dues to him, you know, at least he got on the podium. Obviously he said that you know, there was no way in hell that, you know, Sebastian Vettel should have been on the podium at all, and obviously they shouldn't have even considered not giving it a Max, which is quite, you know, good on his part, because obviously it's more, I think it's also, he's saying obviously that Vettel shouldn't have got it, which is good in him, but he's also saying that Max, you know, he should have retained it. He didn't do anything wrong. To think that obviously they have been a bit, you know, being heated between them, obviously, you know, what happened in the United States Grand Prix and things like that. And I don't know, JT, I mean, obviously, you know, the way that they're ran, I mean, they're all humans at the end of the day, but obviously as a governing body, as high as they are, I think they have to have their head a bit screwed on about that. And as soon as it happened, obviously you had to weigh up all the pros and cons, and then decide who was at fault. And obviously, as you said, JT, I mean, the ridiculous team radio that he said, the unbelievable disrespect, and the thing where, you know, this will be accountable for, you know, this will be remembered for ages, forever. This will be one of the most famous radio messages ever.
It is going down in history, definitely.
He said that to, obviously, the head of the FIA, the man who pushes the 5 red lights, and the man who decides what happens, the chief head steward. He sits in the middle of the FIA. He decides everything. He is almost this, you know, the right-hand man to Chase Carey in the control centre, and he decides what happens in every single thing in Formula 1, because obviously it's FIA Formula 1 at the end of the day. So, you know, I mean, absolutely, why did he do that? And I think it should have been worse than a penalty, a 5-second penalty to get him off the podium. He also got the penalty, the very little penalty for that massive thing that he did. But also it went to Verstappen first, which I've got to say is pretty ridiculous. And also, as you said, JT, another thing, they gave Verstappen the penalty, and he did exactly the same as what Lewis Hamilton did in the first corner, but Hamilton didn't get anything. And obviously, remember, since about Spa, they have been they've been cutting down on everybody who's been cutting corners, exceeding the track limit, which obviously Hamilton did. And if Verstappen did it as well, how come Verstappen got a penalty and Hamilton didn't? So I think they have to have their head a bit screwed on about what they actually did. And if anything, it was rushed. As you said, JT, they told Verstappen in the room, then they got Vettel to sprint over. It was almost, I think they had to maybe even just postpone the podium. They can do whatever they want at the FIA. I mean, but obviously just decide what they need to do properly. But I don't think it was ran maybe to the extent of it's almost like being the head teacher. You know, the head teacher needs to know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing, then it's almost like that's a big fail from them, and then they'll be gone. They'll be out the door in the next few weeks.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, I think Sebastian Vettel's actions was. I mean, it was heated in the moment. You know what I mean? Because obviously, when you get frustrated with something, you know, because obviously. The adrenaline around you, obviously pumping around your body at that time, because he's close to a podium. He's like, I can get this podium. He's like, I was that close to it. And then he cuts the corner, and he's furious. Of course he would be. You know what I mean? There's a lot of there's a lot of stress on him. He's just done 67 laps. You know, and it is quite hot and everything. So obviously, there's, you know, of course he's going to be frustrated. He's going to be tired. So, but that shouldn't be an excuse just to go on the way he did. In my opinion, I think a race ban would have been a bit too far, in my opinion. But maybe like a fine or something like that. Because if in football you were to go up and swear to a referee, you would get a yellow card and probably get a fine from the FA or FIFA or whatever. Where this should be exactly the same thing, because he's telling them to do one. Really, he's using foul language, which I mean, for young fans of Formula One, obviously the bleep out and everything, but for those like 13, 14 who know what he's talking about, and those who are coming up the ranks of Formula One in karting and so forth, they'll look at it and go, oh well, that's okay. We don't want to see that in Formula One. We don't want to see that kind of attitude towards the head guy, really, in a way. But also jumping on Max Verstappen's side as well, Mercedes have been criticising him recently. He's been under a lot of pressure, Max Verstappen, recently, which I think people need to just leave him alone, let him get on to racing, because he was criticised for his overtaking manoeuvres. He's been criticised for his defending manoeuvres, especially in Japan. And now, obviously, what's happening here now? Obviously, just as mentioned before about the Rosberg Verstappen incident at the start, and Mercedes was saying, well, why on earth was Max Verstappen going wheel banging, so close to a driver who is currently leading the world championship, and Mercedes have been properly like blasting Red Bull and Max Verstappen about it. And what I've just said before about how in that case, then, if Max Verstappen, if Rosberg wanted to avoid any sort of contact, he would have to go over the grass. He didn't want to, because he knew that he would get a penalty for gaining an advantage, which is what Hamilton did. So obviously when they came back on the track. He just cut the chicane a bit because there was going to be no room. If Rosberg would have come back onto that track and Verstappen would have moved, I think obviously that would have caused some problems behind him as well, health and safety as well. So, and basically, obviously, as I said before, Mercedes criticising Max Verstappen. He locked up. He couldn't do anything about it. He was going straight on. Exactly the same what Lewis Hamilton just did. He locked up. He went straight on. He cut the corner. Max Verstappen didn't. Max Verstappen knew if he cut the corner, he would gain an advantage. So that's like, well, hang on, you're telling Verstappen off for locking up for going straight forward and then wheel banging into your team. Yet your other driver is just done exactly the same thing, but except he was first place. He went straight on. So how's that fair? That's just stupidity. It's not. It is stupid in my opinion. I think
it just comes back to the FIA they don't know anything. Ridiculous. They don't know what to do. So one person gets the penalty, one person doesn't, and then obviously if they've done this, they're opening themselves up to being like, they're saying, why didn't Rosberg get this? Why didn't Hamilton get this? Why is drivers being penalised? And I just want to say, JT, obviously about Max Verstappen, as you mentioned, I mean, it's called something like the Verstappen rule, something ridiculous like that. Obviously, it all comes back to what he did in Spa in Belgium, obviously when he was battling Kimi Räikkönen. Well, first, obviously, he had that collision with Räikkönen and Vettel at the start, and then obviously his, I don't know if you want to call it aggressive or defensive, his move on Kimi Räikkönen, obviously late braking, swerving across, obviously on the Kemmel Straight, and then obviously blocking Hamilton, again, if you want to call that aggressive or defensive, in Japan. So obviously now the Verstappen rule, if you want to call it that, is around. He is now as JD said, he is in the firing line of every single thing. People are now, on his doorstep, not saying, egging his house, saying you did this, you did that, and is he going to be in the firing line for everything? Again, it just shows more. Was he in the? Is that just because it's like someone who isn't liked?
He isn't for some reason.
It'll
be good for him because it's like everyone's tipping him to become good things. Michael Schumacher was hated by everybody, so Verstappen will be loving this.
He was. Well,
exactly.
Vettel was. He was called the crash kid by many team principals. But it's a bit like being at school, and obviously, if you peeve off the teacher in their first week, in their first lesson, they're not going to like you. And I've got to say, they're going to pick on you to do loads. It's like every single, and that's what the FIA are doing. And also, they're treating Max like a guinea pig, because it's almost like if we give him harsh sanctions, nobody else in Formula One is going to is going to break the rules or anything like that. But I think that's the big thing. It's the FIA just didn't know what they were doing. It's like they just didn't. In terms of the penalties, they didn't know what they were doing. Obviously, telling Max Verstappen also as well, he was that far ahead. If anything, they should have told him in the race, or they should have had a delayed podium or something like that. A bit like obviously what happened in 1989 JT. Obviously, as we all know, when Senna hit Prost in the chicane, I can't say it. The chicane,
the casino chicane,
the Japan chicane. The Japan chicane, obviously when he hit him in that, and then Senna got going, and obviously Prost didn't. They delayed the podium for a very long time, obviously, so you'd have been watching it on the telly. At that point, you'd be thinking, what's going on here? They're taking quite a long time. and they went both into the FIA scrutineering room. They talked it over. Obviously, the team boss at McLaren, obviously Ron Dennis, went in there along with Alain Prost, along with Ayrton Senna, along with the FIA boss, who obviously was French at that time, and they talked it over, and then they got on the podium, and that didn't really happen. They'd almost rushed that, and it was almost like someone, a messenger boy, came in with a sweaty face and went, "Okay, Max, you're not on the podium. It's Sebastian Vettel. He's on his way over now." And then Sebastian Vettel gets on. He's mugging off Verstappen, going, "Look, I'm on the podium and you're not." And then about a few hours later, it's like, "Well, I'm not really anymore." And then Ricardo's at home in Australia, bouncing his kangaroo when it's like going into summer. With his bathing suit on in Melbourne, and he's and he gets a phone call from Charlie Whiting going, "Okay, Verstappen was on the podium, and then Vettel was on the podium, and now you're going to be on the podium." And he's probably saying, "Well, shouldn't I be scared as well? Because in a few days, he might change your mind and go, oh no, we're going to put Esteban Ocon on the podium."
Julian Palmer, everyone's been demoted, so you're the last driver left. Oh, Julian Palmer gets. Some drivers that aren't even in Formula 1, right?
Just throw anyone on there.
Charles Leclerc, you're on. Lance Stroll, you're on the podium, that type of thing. But
Scott Speed,
exactly.
Anyone.
Just reverting to that, the Hamilton thing I was just on about before, how it was about how basically why didn't Lewis Hamilton get a penalty, and about obviously cross the line, and obviously we'll just quickly mention this just before we wrap up this segment, since we're on about the rules and everything. So people are obviously asking the question, why didn't Hamilton get a penalty? Now, a lot of bandwagoners out there will be jumping on it and going, right, Hamilton is the world champion, three-time world champion. He's battling for the championship. Everybody likes him for some reason. Everyone's biased against him. Especially, a lot of people have been criticising David Croft for being quite biased towards Lewis Hamilton. Which, obviously, I don't watch a lot of Sky Sports F1, so I'm not one to say it. But obviously, a lot of people have been tweeting him and everything, which is a bit, harsh and everything. So everyone is entitled to their own opinion, I guess. Obviously, if you're David Croft or if you're just a fan. And what they were saying is that stewards tend to be a bit more lenient at the start of a Grand Prix because, obviously, of everything that's happening in Turn 1. I mean, we've seen loads of like people cutting corners now in Turn 1 at the start of a Grand Prix because there literally is no room.
Yeah.
And if you were going to go, follow that line, you're going to hit somebody and cause a massive pile up, or cause a lot of damage and stuff like that. Yeah. So obviously, stewards tend to be a little bit more like calm and everything. But I mean. And then also you could also say, well, there was a lot going on because you had they'll be watching like Verstappen locking up on towards Rosberg. Behind them, you had a few bumps and everything. Also, you had Verline. So you had Ocon into Verline into I don't know who, I know it was Verline into Marcus Ericsson. So obviously the FIA would have looked into that. And obviously been awarded everything. Like there've been loads of like messages coming through on the boards saying he's hit him. They probably would have lost concentration. They might not even known what Hamilton did because they were like exactly, which would be an embarrassment. But obviously they're not going to admit that. They're not going to say, "Oh, we weren't concentrating." They're the stewards, for God's sake. They are supposed to be concentrating, so they'll never admit that. So that could also be a possibility as to why Hamilton didn't get a penalty. Because they might go, "Oh well, Hamilton got a great start," because he missed like half the track line, you idiots. But that's also something to debate. I mean, do you think that is a possibility? Also, do you think the FA, the stewards, Charlie White and everyone weren't concentrating?
Yeah.
And,
See, JT, this shouldn't be it. This shouldn't be that reason. I'm gonna say that they probably did see it. They just didn't see much into it, and I don't know why. I mean, it might come back to obviously David Croft. I mean, he has been saying a few things, but that's just because he's British. I think he just wants to see Lewis Hamilton do well. But just on the race starts, I mean, obviously the FIA have always been saying they're going to clamp down because I've got to say, I mean, I've got to just the example I want to use, okay, is Russia. 2014, obviously the first edition, which was Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. They went into the first corner together, which obviously, as you know, is like a chicane, like a right-hander, and obviously it bends around to the left, and that 180-degree turn. Anyway, Lewis Hamilton, obviously, they changed it, I think it was in 15, and obviously, I know they changed it this year, where you had to be, obviously, on the left-hand side of this bollard. But I remember they went into that corner, and it was Lewis Hamilton at that time, and he basically didn't brake. He just went straight on. I kid you not, he just went straight on. So something like corner 1, corner 2, corner 3, just cut straight away, and there was no damage. There was no there was no investigation. Not even, I think there was an investigation, a little one, but obviously nothing happened towards it. And that was the thing. He was leading. Okay, that's okay, fine. He was leading, but obviously that means his gap went from about 30 seconds, not 30 seconds. Sorry, let's say 300th of a second. I don't know why I said 30 seconds. To obviously a massive, because obviously he did as people were braking into turn 1 and then turn 2, going into turn 3. He just cut those 2 corners, and then that was the end of that. It happened loads. It happened in Monaco. People have gone up the slip road because obviously
there's no room.
There's a little. As you know, going to Saint Devote, there's obviously the kind of the runoff area, not the runoff area, like the curb. Obviously, left of it is on the track. Right of it is obviously the pit lane. Again, if there's a collision there, which obviously it's Monaco, most of them is like 2012. I remember obviously because as you know, Sergio Perez, he went in the air. Almost all the cars went in the pit lane exit. It happened in Monza. People haven't gone around the chicane. Exactly. They've gone through the slip road.
That's not very wide, is it? That's chicane.
Yeah. That is many times have done that. And obviously, if you have seen the film Senna,
exactly. Also as well in Italy, you've got them bollards as well, haven't you? So obviously the drivers have to weave around them. So why don't you put that on? So why don't you have that on tracks like Mexico? So obviously, if they do run off, the FIA will look at that and go, well, obviously there's not going to be enough room. Obviously, let's learn from this and just put some bollards perhaps at that chicane, and then if it does happen. Yeah,
Mexico's a big one, JT. But obviously Russia, that's you've got the track, then you've got a little piece of artificial grass. Yeah. And then that's it, you know what I mean? Obviously, the runoff area is as fast, and obviously that's why we saw. So you remember Carlos Sainz crash from last year? That's why we saw his crash, because obviously if he was going into gravel or a sand trap, it would have probably stopped the car. But obviously it's not. Russia's runoff area is as fast as the track, so obviously that's why he went straight on. And that's a problem. But I just remember that's probably the biggest example I can use for the starts. So Hamilton should have got something, at least something. Obviously, I think it was investigated into, but obviously there was nothing. There was nothing looked into that. But something should have happened there. It doesn't matter if he was first. It doesn't matter if he was 5th, 10th, or in last place. Wherever you are on the track, if you cut the corner, and obviously it's track limits as well. We've seen if the FIA are going to be that strict in qualifying, okay, if they're going to go, you cut a tiny bit of the track, we're going to delete your time. If they're going to be that strict in qualifying, and then also if they're going to give Verstappen a penalty, if they're going to give Vettel a penalty, they should give Hamilton a penalty. They can't give it now because that would be stupid. But obviously we have seen them be a bit stupid because they give 2 drivers penalties for no apparent reason. But obviously it was very floppy. It was like Verstappen, here you go, Vettel, here we go. And then someone would have walked in the door as soon as they give Vettel that penalty. Sorry, Verstappen that penalty. They would have gone, hang on a minute, guys, what are you doing? Then they'd panicked and gone, oh no, I'm in Vettel, And then it's like panicking. What are we doing? What are we doing here? And then so that they need to get that sorted in the start. It's over now. Obviously, Hamilton didn't get anything, but Hamilton should have got something. But it all comes down to the FIA were just, nothing was in there when the race was happening. JT, if they, I don't think they missed it, but they probably didn't read too much into it. But as you said clearly, if it was Verstappen on the first corner, if it was Vettel, if it was anyone else on the grid, I think they would have been all over that. But obviously, they just weren't paying attention too much. It's all messed up. It is
to be fair.
It really is.
Absolutely shambolic actions from not only from the drivers as well, but from the FIA. You could partially blame some decisions on them in a way, but then again, we haven't been in that scenario. We don't know obviously how they do their job and everything. So we're just throwing suggestions out there. So obviously, just let us know what your opinion about this is in the comments below as well.
Yeah, and we imagine these comments will be very long. You might even want to make a video yourself to do it. So the last thing to talk about is Ross Brawn. He's been linked with Liberty Media by himself. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk since his retirement in 2013 that he should return into Formula 1, doing, whatever. I mean, to be honest, Ross Brawn could fill in any role in Formula 1. He could go to any team, could do anything, really. He built Formula 1. Obviously, as we know, he built Mercedes. No joke. He resurrected them from the ashes in 2010. And built amazing cars. Obviously got Nico his first win in 2012, or Mercedes' first win. But obviously before that, even on his first day in 2010, he'd already got Michael Schumacher on board. So that's that's amazing by him. And also before that, his amazing years with Ferrari, with Michael Schumacher, absolutely amazing by him, an absolute legend. And we will definitely be talking about him for a very long time. One of the legends of motorsport, of Formula One. Anyway, he's been talking about making a comeback into Formula One now. As you know now, Liberty Media have now bought Formula One. When Bernie Ecclestone owned it, and obviously he was the CEO, and Bernie was the big cheese, the only cheese on campus, Ross Brawn was like, no, I'm not coming in. This reason is obviously because when Ross left, I think he had a bit more extravagant views into Formula One in the future. Bernie didn't really approve, and obviously there was a bit of tensions between that, locker room talk is like what happens in football and other sports like that when you'll see a player leave, like what's he left for? Because he's had a fallout with the manager. Just a little bit of locker room, chanting and stuff like that might have gone on between those. Anyway, now obviously it's changed hands. Now Chase Carey, the Monopoly man or the Pringles man, is now CEO. What is Ross Brawn going to do? Well, in the last week or so, he's been saying that he might do some work for Liberty Media. He might come into Formula One and basically just act as like an ambassador into Formula One. Now, as you say, the world's his oyster, or Formula One's his oyster. He can do whatever he wants. He can go wherever he wants. He has a pass key in every single garage on the grid, especially Ferrari and obviously Mercedes. He can do whatever he wants. He can blow up Mercedes. It's fine. He can do whatever he wants with Mercedes. Now, he has been linked with them. What's he going to do? Now, obviously, as the media always does, they always say what's not happening, but obviously what should be happening. And they've been saying that Ross Brawn is going to almost take over from Bernie Ecclestone when he leaves. Now, Bernie's the chief executive of Formula One, not the CEO anymore. So is Ross Brawn going to fill Bernie's shoes when he looks like he's going to leave, maybe at the end of this season, or the end of next season, or whenever that's going to happen? Yeah. Well, in the last few days, Ross Brawn obviously has been talking with Liberty Media what's going to happen. He's been with Chase Carey, and then later, obviously at time of recording, it was only a few hours ago, but it's going to be a few days ago now, Ross Brawn has told the BBC that is not going to happen, that he's not going to take over from Bernie Ecclestone or anything like that. He says that a Formula One career in the future is looking very, very promising, obviously, which is what we want to hear from Ross Brawn. But he said that there's no action, and to be honest, he hasn't told anyone. He said, is he going to take over from Bernie Ecclestone? The words he said was, he could get into Formula One, but it's not looking likely, it's not looking promising that he's going to do that. So it's all open for Ross Brawn. What's he going to do now? But it's really amazing, because also we're getting this talk now. Obviously, we talked about Ron Dennis before. It's all this talk about these ex-team principles and things like that coming back into Formula One. And as I say, Ross Brawn can do absolutely anything he wants. But at the moment, he's looking like he might go in with Liberty Media and do some, executive work, ambassadorial work with Liberty Media in Formula One. Now, JT, obviously, we talked about Ross Brawn last time, also when we were doing the segment about Ron Dennis. Yeah. I mean, what an absolute legend he is. As I say, he built Mercedes, literally. He worked with Michael Schumacher at Ferrari. He did some amazing works. He is Formula One in a nutshell. And, I mean, seeing him in the paddock again, whoever it is it with a team, or is it with Liberty Media, or is it in Bernie's very small shoes, it would be absolutely amazing to see him in the paddock. I mean, as I say, the builder of Mercedes, I mean, just an unbelievable man. It would be great to see him in the podium in the paddock for 2017. It would be great, wouldn't it?
Exactly. I mean, he's a brilliant man when it comes to Formula One as well. Multiple championships with other with different teams, Ferrari, Benetton, Mercedes. Let's not forget though, he brought in Lewis Hamilton to Mercedes. So really, you could owe the success to Mercedes because of Ross Brawn.
Well, Niki Lauda said that. Niki Lauda says that he did.
Well, you don't know. Well, we all know that Ross Brawn and Mercedes and Toto Wolff and Niki Lauda had a bit of a disagreement as to why Ross Brawn left.
Niki's been a bit tricky. Nicky's been a bit tricky and having a kicky out of being awkward.
But I mean, I would love to see Ross Brawn back in Formula One. He's a popular figure. He's well known as well. And obviously, with him saying not coming in to be in charge of Formula One, I was a bit disappointed when I heard this. I was a bit like built up when I first heard that he could take over from Bernie, and I was like, I would love to see Ross Brawn. He knows what he wants. He knows, he's been there, he's done that before. As is Bernie Ecclestone, but I think Bernie Ecclestone's like, he's run out of ideas now. But I've been in the game for nearly 50, 60 years. You know what I mean? I wanted some time off. Whereas Ross Brawn, he'll come in. He's not as young, but he's fresh. He's got new ideas and everything like that. So it's almost like a Bernie Ecclestone, like revamped in a way, except like probably a more cuddly version of Bernie Ecclestone Ross Brawn is, as you can tell.
Or JT, just the last thing, so before I go back to you.
Sure,
remember, Ross Brawn, he could own his own team. Oh no, wait,
He already
done
did.
that. And he's won a world championship.
Exactly.
Sorry, there we go. Back to you, JT. I just wanted to almost rub that in Bernie's face.
Have a bit of that. Yes, also, yes, he did. As like I said, multiple world champions in drivers and also in constructors. Now, if he were to come back to Formula 1, I don't think he would be with the team. I think it would be like maybe like higher up, perhaps. He could take it from Charlie Whiting after everything that's happened. Imagine that.
I've got words for you, Ross.
We'll let Ross know. Well, you're going to tell Ross that. Yeah. You know how it is from Sebastian Vettel. But anyways, that would be pretty funny to see. But yeah, I would love to see Ross brought back into Formula 1. But obviously, having I think it's about a 3-year break now. I think Martin Brundle was saying that he wants to come back into Formula 1. He's linked with it. He needed that break because obviously worked with Ferrari, with having his own team, with Mercedes, with Benton. In the past, he needs some time off after being in the game for like 20, 30 years. You do need some time off from time to time, and obviously that's what Jensen Button's doing now. So, even big rich guys do need some time off as well. But I mean, what a perfect time to come back into Formula 1. Let's see how Ross Brawn copes with the V6 era, because he was part of the last V8 era season in 2013. Then obviously left Mercedes at the start of 2014, and I would see how he does. I mean, as I said, I don't think it will be with the team. It will be more higher up, but like, what role would he have, LC? That would be very interesting to find out. I hope maybe Sky Sports might do like an interview with him in the winter, maybe in the next season, or might hear.
Well, last thing to mention.
Yes?
Last thing to mention. Sorry. Just as you said, interview. Obviously, he did a recording with BBC Radio 5 Live. Anyone who gets that signal or listens to that on the radio, he did that on Thursday. So obviously, make sure that you go and listen to that. We can't tell you what he said because obviously we recorded before that. But
it's already happened.
Obviously, I hope
it's already happened.
It's already happened.
But it hasn't happened.
No, it hasn't happened.
If that makes any sense.
So yeah, we can't say that though. We recorded an hour before this came out. That's what we have to say.
Yes.
No, but as just JC said quickly there, it would be absolutely amazing for Sky Sports to cover that. What's Ross going to do? And obviously there'll be a lot of talk around him on Sky Sports and things like that. There should be in the next few weeks, because this is the only news that we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
There's on BBC, obviously that's the notification that came through. Ross Brawn says it's not looking like he hasn't agreed anything. Nothing's happening at the moment, as we say a lot of the time in the F1 debate show. This isn't happening. This is all rumour. We should change the name of the F1 rumour show.
Like a lot of rumours recently, which obviously, when we say something, we've got to mention it and debate about it and just discuss whether it will happen or not. That's what we debate about. I mean, that's the whole point of it. We have been criticised.
Yes,
we have been criticised for saying stuff that hasn't really occurred, but we've seen it in the news. So we're like, let's mention it in case it does get brought out. Then at least we've got our opinion out there, and people can follow on from that, and maybe judge from us and be like, oh yeah, I agree with this, but in a way I don't really agree with this because it could be that type of thing. It's a debate show. Yeah. We debate. That's what we do.
Exactly, JT. You've hit the nail on the head. That is what a debate is so much, and so obviously we'll have to watch it in the next few weeks to see what happens, alongside a lot of our other theories that we've said, obviously on the silly season as well.
Yes.
Not many people are signed. There's a few seats open. Who's going to go there? What's going to happen? Obviously, blah 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 blah. But that is obviously that's what the F1 debate show is. You'll have to stay tuned and see what's going to happen.
Yes, you will have to. And also, stay tuned with us to find out what if Ross Brawn does say anything, does announce anything. Make sure that you stay tuned with us. We'll definitely cover it either in a debate show, maybe a big debate episode, or maybe just a random video.
We want them to be in Formula 1.
Exactly. Of course. So let us know in the comments below. Also, our first opinions about Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen, and also maybe give us your opinion about Ross Brawn. Do you want to see him back? Do you want to see him back in the FIA? Do you want to see him back in a team? Maybe create another team. I don't know what.
On the F1 debate show.
Exactly. Do you want to see RB sit next to one of us? That would be pretty cool. But we've got a lot of questions to ask him if he were to join us one day. Exactly. But anyway, guys, we are going to wrap up this video here. Thank you very much for watching as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe. As ever, stay tuned with the F1 Debate Show. Head over to Facebook, like us there. Follow us on Twitter at F1_DS16. Stay tuned and make sure that you interact with our debate using the hashtag F1 Debate Show. Anyway, guys, we'll see you later. Take care and enjoy your week.
Enjoy the Brazilian Grand Prix also. Bye, guys.